That night when thunder cracked over the small town of Maplewood, it wasn't just the storm that shook the walls of the tiny house on Sycamore Street. It was the screaming inside. "You worthless girl!" Linda's voice rang out sharp and venomous. At 47, she had perfected the art of cruelty, and every word landed like a whip. Across from her, 22-year-old Clara sat small on the worn-out sofa, one hand over her stomach, the other clutching tears she refused to let fall. On the coffee table between them lay the piece of paper that had betrayed her, a crumpled ultrasound photo. The date printed at the bottom glared like an accusation. 12 weeks. Clara's stepmother had found it hidden beneath her mattress, and now the secret she had guarded with her very breath was laid bare. Her father Harold stood weakly in the doorway, wringing his hands. He was once a proud man, but years with Linda had drained the fight out of him. "She's still my daughter," he whispered, but his voice carried no weight. Linda spun on him like a viper. "Your daughter just ruined everything we built in this community. The neighbors will whisper, the church will talk. We'll be a laughingstock because she couldn't keep her legs closed." Clara wanted to scream back to tell them it wasn't what they thought, that it had been one night, one unexpected moment when she had felt seen, loved, not invisible. But before she could speak, Linda's hand came across her face, sharp and final. "Pack your things," Linda hissed, yanking Clara's arm so hard it left bruises. "You've got 10 minutes to get out. And don't you dare come crawling back. You're dead to us." The front door slammed behind her, and the storm greeted Clara with icy rain that soaked her to the bone. She stood there in the street with nothing but a duffel bag and a life growing inside her, staring at the house that had never truly been a home. Her father never turned around to look, and that broke her more than Linda's slap. She walked for hours through the downpour, aimless, numb. The streets emptied as the storm worsened, but her feet kept moving one in front of the other, until she found herself in the financial district, standing before a towering glass building with golden letters spelling Carter Global. She'd heard the name before everyone in the city had. It was the empire of Julian Carter, a millionaire who made headlines for his power and ruthless business sense. Clara pulled the ultrasound photo from her pocket, damp but still legible. 12 weeks ago. 12 weeks since that gala where she had met a stranger who treated her like she mattered, if only for one night. She pressed the paper to her chest, her only proof of hope. Then, as if fate wasn't done with her, a sudden gust ripped it from her fingers. "No," she cried, chasing it across the slick pavement. She collided with someone hard, stumbling to the ground. When she looked up, her heart stopped. A tall man in an expensive suit, his dark hair glistening with rain, stood frozen, staring not at her, but at the ultrasound photo lying between them. He bent down, picked it up, and the confusion in his gray eyes turned into something deeper. Recognition. "This date," he murmured. His voice was low, almost lost in the storm. His eyes lifted to hers. 12 weeks ago. Clara's breath caught. In that instant, lightning flashed, and she remembered where she had seen those storm-colored eyes before. At the gala, the man who had made her feel human when she was drowning in loneliness. "Julian," she whispered. He didn't deny it. He held the ultrasound like it was fragile glass. "Clara," he said, testing her name like he'd been holding on to it all this time. And just like that, both of them knew this was no coincidence. He wrapped his coat around her trembling body and guided her to his sleek black car. She tried to protest, saying she had nowhere to belong, but he didn't let her finish. "You're coming with me," he said firmly. "You're not facing this storm alone." The Carter mansion was as intimidating as the man himself. Marble floors, chandeliers, a staircase that seemed to touch the sky. Clara wanted to shrink back to disappear, But then an elderly woman appeared from the sitting room, small, elegant, her silver hair pulled back neatly. "Oh, you poor thing," she said softly, rushing to Clara's side. "Julian, what were you thinking, bringing this sweet girl in soaked like this?" "Come, dear, let's get you warm." This was Eleanor Carter, Julian's grandmother, and the only warm heart in that cold mansion. She led Clara upstairs, fussing over her promising hot soup and dry clothes. For the first time in months, Clara felt the comfort of kindness. But not everyone in that house was welcoming. Julian's mother, Victoria, stepped into the foyer, her icy blue eyes narrowing at Clara. Behind her were Julian's siblings, Trent, smug and entitled, and Vanessa, beautiful but cruel. "What on earth is this?" Victoria demanded. "Julian, who is she?" "She's staying with us," Eleanor said firmly, standing beside Clara. "A stray. And pregnant." Vanessa's laugh was sharp. "How generous of us." Clara's face burned. She tried to excuse herself to say it was a mistake, but Eleanor tightened her grip on her arm. "No, my dear. You belong here, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise." But belonging wasn't easy. Every day brought new insults from Victoria and her children. They called her a gold digger, accused her of trapping Julian. One morning, Vanessa deliberately knocked a breakfast tray to the floor and sneered, "Why don't you clean it up since you're used to messes?" Clara froze, shaking her hand instinctively, covering her belly. That was when Julian stepped in, his voice like steel. "Apologize. Now. You can't be serious," Vanessa scoffed. "One more word and you're out of this house," Julian warned, his eyes blazing. For once, the room went silent. Clara's heart pounded not from fear, but from the realization that he was choosing her, protecting her. Over the weeks, Julian stood by her side through doctor's appointments, through whispers at the mansion. In one quiet moment, as they listened to the baby's heartbeat echo through a clinic room, he whispered, "Our baby." And the reverence in his voice brought Clara to tears. Their bond deepened into something real, something neither of them could deny. But the Carters didn't stop. Victoria spread lies claiming Clara was a thief, a liar, a parasite. And when Eleanor suddenly collapsed, poisoned by Oleander's suspicion, fell squarely on Clara. Police stormed her room and found vials of poison hidden in her dresser. Her cries of innocence were drowned out by the cold click of handcuffs. "Julian, you have to believe me," she pleaded as they led her away. But in his eyes she saw the flicker of doubt, and that cut deeper than any accusation. In the cell, pregnant and alone, Clara thought it was over. But fate wasn't finished. Days later, Eleanor woke in the hospital, her memory sharp as ever. It was Victoria, she told detectives. "She made my tea that morning. She framed Clara because she couldn't stand the thought of sharing our fortune with her and the baby." The truth shattered everything. Victoria was arrested, her lies crumbling under the weight of evidence. And Julian, he ran to Clara just as she went into premature labor from the stress. He held her hand through every contraction, whispering, "I'm here. I believe you. I'm sorry." Hours later, their son entered the world, tiny, fragile, but alive. When Julian kissed Clara's forehead and looked through the incubator at their boy, his voice broke. "He's perfect, just like his mother." Months later, as Clara sat in the Carter Gardens with Eleanor holding her grandson and Julian's arm around her, she knew she had finally found family, not through blood, but through love and fire. But she also knew the battle wasn't entirely won. Wealthy families don't forgive easily, and Victoria's shadow still lingered even from behind bars. And that's where I'll leave you, because love may have triumphed this time, but can it really survive the claws of money, power, and revenge? Tell me what you think. Was Clara right to forgive Julian after he doubted her? Do you believe families like the Carters ever truly change, or do people like Victoria always find a way back into power? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your side. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe every underdog deserves their storm to end with sunlight.